So far away, Lucas, are you ready to do that internet thing and talk about some dark humour?
Oh no, how dark are we getting? How edgy is Wiki Weekends becoming?
But we're talking about actual dark humour, because we're talking about American Psycho.
I thought you were going to make a joke and be like, we're talking about the colour black.
Hey, that would be dark humour, because we make jokes about the use of that colour. And then is black a colour? I think black's the absence of colour, right?
The absence of colour, I guess.
Which is what like smarmy dickheads will say. Well, technically black's not a colour; it's the absence of colour. It's like, shut up, you know what I mean? It's on a pencil, on a colouring pencil. It's a colour. We're not talking about Lucas. Today we're talking about American Psycho, the film, not the book. And how familiar are you with the film American Psycho or the original Bret Easton novel?
So I've only watched American Psycho one time, and I fell into that category of watching it as a 14-year-old, thinking it was real cool.
Do not wear that outfit again. Wear a dress, a skirt, or something.
You don't like this, I take it.
Come on. You're prettier than that.
And now I look back and go, oh no.
Fucking ugly bitch.
Which I think is why I wanted to talk about it, because American Psycho, in particular the character of Patrick Bateman, has undergone something of a critical reanalysis, informed entirely by memes. Like, people hold up, like, Christian Bale as, like, he's, like, the alpha Chad, right? Like, whenever you see someone, like, just, I did this super Chad move, which for people not familiar with internet vernacular, is just doing something, like, you know, really awesome without concern for how others would perceive you for doing it. And it's kind of amusing because people are then going to watch the film informed by those memes, not realising that Patrick Bateman's character is just a pathetic sack of shit.
I'm on the verge of tears by the time we arrive at a spa, since I'm positive we won't have a decent table.
Yeah, like, he's a psychopath. That's the point.
But he's a psychopath who's really bad at just doing anything. Like, he's a terrible character because he just doesn't know how to do anything. And like, the end of the film is him having a mental breakdown because he just doesn't matter.
No, listen. Don't you know who I am? I'm not Davis. I'm Patrick Bateman. We talk on the phone all the time. Don't you recognize me?
And it's one of those weird things, isn't it? Of like, you got a very like attractive, charming actor to play the role, and therefore it kind of goes over people's heads a little bit.
Yes, and, you know, but for anyone out there who's unfamiliar with the film or this series, Wiki Weekends, we take a wiki on a subject we want to talk about and go through it. Today, it's my turn to present a video, and I want to talk about American Psycho. And Lucas, to put us all on the same page, specifically this Wikipedia page, American Psycho is a 2000s satirical horror film directed by Mary Harron, who co-wrote the screenplay with Genevieve Turner. So right there, you notice Lucas, Mary Harron was the director, and the screenplay was co-written by Mary Harron and Genevieve Turner. So it was like a film co-written by two women, directed by a woman, and Bret Easton Ellis, who wrote the original novel, is gay. Which is why it's so funny that people hold up the character of Patrick Bateman as this, like, this, I call him Patrick Bacon then, he's not Patrick, he's Patrick Bateman, as this example of hyper-masculinity, when the whole point is that he's a teardown of it. And the entire film was directed by a woman, and the story was co-written by two women. And the original novel on which, you know, the film is based and the character of Patrick Bateman was birthed was written by a gay man.
It was almost as if heterosexual male society had suddenly taken all the tropes from gay male society. Very concerned about their body, the gym stuff. It really seemed like heterosexual men had then now adopted what had been really a gay lifestyle and a gay way of looking and of presenting themselves. I thought, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy that, like, you know, I now watch, you know, videos and critiques of the movie and stuff, and have seen a lot of clips because it gets memed on a lot. Or, like, it gets used as memes a lot. It doesn't get memed on a lot necessarily.
No, people just use, like, Patrick Bateman as, like, a reaction image. Like the one who just, like, walking down the corridor, listening to his headphones, just not giving a fuck. Which, admittedly, Patrick Bateman as a character is very memeable.
Yes.
He has a very expressive face.
It's wild to me that, like, watching all of these breakdowns and stuff on it, I'm like, yeah, how did I not get that this was like a satirical comedy when I watched it? And the answer is because I was 14.
You was 14, yes, and you've emotionally matured since then, but some people haven't. It reminds me a little bit of the film Fight Club, which was similarly based on a book written by a gay man as a teardown of masculinity.
It's like literally those two by a lot of like, you know, weird alpha male obsessed, you know, people are just like both held up as these really butch, macho, like alpha depictions of men, and it's like, no, they're both taking the piss.
Yeah. Also, in the case of Fight Club, like that alpha macho dude literally doesn't exist. Tyler Durden does not exist.
Yep.
And I believe the story behind Fight Club, which I find fascinating, is it's Chuck Palahniuk. I always forget to pronounce the guy's name, but I think it's Chuck Palahniuk.
Hi, my name is Chuck Palahniuk.
He said he worked in an office and got in a fist fight over the weekend and came into the office and no one asked him how he was. And he realised wow, just no one ever asks men how they are because they always assume that they're fine, even when they are very clearly not. And that's why he wrote Fight Club, the idea of like, what does it take for men to be able to express themselves? And the answer is kicking the shit out of each other in a parking lot and committing terrorist acts.
Yeah, it's like, oh, is it normal for men to just get into fistfights in a weekend? Like, why is that perceived as normal?
It's the only way they can express themselves, and that's the thing that the film and the book is taking the piss out of. The idea of all these men of like, it's the only time we can ever truly be free. It's like, or you could just talk to people. It'd be way easier, right, than falling behind this made-up person who wants to commit terrorist act in his name. You could talk to someone.
We'll call it the Horsing Around Club, and we'll just fucking go to town on each other, just visceral, disturbing shit, you know?
You see, like Patrick Bateman, of like, he even says the opening line of the novel is like, Patrick Bateman does not exist, it's a mask. But you know, we'll get into that now. So, Ellis considered his controversial novel to be unfilmable, but producer Edward R. Pressman was determined to adapt it and bought the film rights in 1992. So it took 8 years to get this movie made.
Fair enough.
Mentions here that Stuart Gordon, David Cronenberg, and Rob Weiss were all considered for directing the film before Harron and Turner began writing the screenplay in 1966. They sought to make a 1980s period film that emphasised the novel's satire, however much that went over people's heads. And I think a lot of people can use the excuse I was 14, but there's a lot of guys out there I've seen who can't use the excuse of being 14. Emotionally, they can say they're 14, physically they're not.
They just haven't gotten enough fistfights to express themselves yet, Karl.
It's so fucking funny, right? Like, Fight Club's the funniest one. Of like people holding like Tyler Durden as this great example of masculinity. It's like, he doesn't exist. The idea of masculinity represent doesn't exist. He exists entirely in Edward Norton's head. And that's one of the things like, oh, you could have done any of the things that Tyler Durden did. You just needed to be confident. But you were too confident, you became an arsehole. I wonder if there's a message there.
We're looking for a way to change your life. You could not do this on your own. All the ways you wish you could be, that's me.
Slash terrorist, you know, in the movie.
You mentioned that the pre-production period was tumultuous. Harron chose Bale to play Bateman, but because director-distributor Lionsgate Films sought Leonardo DiCaprio in the role, Harron was fired and replaced with Oliver Stone. After Stone and DiCaprio left due to creative differences, which is always Hollywood code for fistfight in a car park, a la Fight Club, Harron was rehired and was allowed to cast Bale. And this is one of those legendary Hollywood casting stories where Mary Harron wanted to cast Christian Bale. Christian Bale wanted to play Patrick Bateman. However, the studio didn't. It's like that meme, isn't it? Speaking of memes, of isn't there somebody you forgot to ask? And it's just the studio stood at the foot of the bed. It's like, it's not about you!
It's just wild, isn't it? Because, like, Leonardo DiCaprio, yeah, sure, was a bigger name grab at the time. He was one of the rising stars of Hollywood, depending on when this exactly was in production. But, like, Patrick Bateman is so excellently played by Christian Bale, I couldn't imagine anyone else doing that role.
Yes, and Patrick Bateman and Christian Bale was so convinced that he was perfect for the role that he turned down multiple other projects. And Mary Harron fought tooth and nail to get him. And the story goes that when he first turned up on set, nobody knew whether or not Christian Bale was a good actor because he stayed in character the entire time as Patrick Bateman, an emotionless sociopath. So everyone just assumed that Christian Bale was a bad actor. It's like, no, he's such a good actor, you can't tell where Bale ends and Bateman begins. Like, he was just in character the entire time and everyone just assumed he was an arsehole. It's like, no, he's just a good actor.
What exactly do you mean?
It's slightly terrifying, and obviously, I don't necessarily believe anyone when they say, like, they're full 24/7 method actor, but...
Except for Christian Bale. I believe it for him, because he's insane.
Christian
He's
Bale
insane.
does seem insane.
Lucas, did you know on the set of Batman, do you know what his trailer said? It said Batman.
Not Bruce Wayne. He's awful at hiding his identity.
Well, it depends.
isn't
If he was
he?
playing Bruce Wayne, it'd say Bruce Wayne. Because Christian Bale's insane.
Yeah, and, like, you know, you hear stories about, like, fucking Jared Leto on the set of Morbius just being like, oh no, I must, like, go hunting for animals in the wild and shit. It's like, fuck off, Jared Leto. Stop getting people to take you to the toilet. It's gross.
I still think it's really, really funny that it was my ex who pointed this out after we watched American Psycho together of, isn't it fascinating that Jared Leto basically had a front row seat of a masterclass in how to play a sociopath on the set of American Psycho and completely fucked up the Joker, because I saw a review of American Psycho that I adore, a contemporary one is that Christian Bale might be the only actor alive today who could be cast to play either Batman or the Joker and excel at both.
Speaking of movies, because Jared Leto's in both of those movies to get, like, killed off, right?
Yeah, he's in
So he's babyface in Fight Club as well, isn't he?
yeah, he's in Fight Club and he gets the shit kicked out of him. As is Meatloaf, who plays Bitch Tits. Just the idea that Meatloaf's in it. And here's the thing, speaking of, like, you know, it's a tear down of toxic masculinity, the character of Bitch Tits, played by, I think it's Bitch Tits. I hope it is, because otherwise I'm just saying this really obnoxious word for no reason.
Maybe I'll
just double
look it
check.
up.
Just type in Meatloaf Fight Club. Does he play a character called Bitch Tits?
You're too old, fat man. Your tits are too big.
So yeah, I looked it up and it looks like his name was Bitch Tits in the movie.
Yeah, and if anyone's wondering, wait, why do they call Meatloaf's character Bitch Tits? Well, the backstory to the character is that he was a former bodybuilder, but then got his testicles removed, and as part of that process, started to develop breasts.
Oh, because, like, the weird, like, testosterone, like, change in the body, yeah.
Yeah, and they call him Bitch Tits, and it's like, it's an amazing bit of, like, you know, satire on the idea of toxic masculinity that, like, I think Meatloaf starts crying at one point in the film, because he just doesn't know how to express himself, because he doesn't feel like a man anymore. And it's that thing of, like, if only there was a healthier way for you to express this that didn't involve beating people up in a car park.
Go ahead, Cornelius. You can cry.
If only there was some kind of professional that you could go and speak to about your emotions.
Yeah. You know, I'm just imagining, like, Tyler Durden as a therapist. It's like, have you considered committing a terrorist act? It's like, no! Anyway, American Psycho premiered at the Sundance Film Festival on January 21st, 2000, and was theatrically released in the United States on April 14th. The film received mostly positive reviews, with much praise for Bale's performance, the screenplay, and just the acting in general. It grossed over $34 million on a modest $7 million budget, and has since developed a cult following and a strong presence in contemporary meme culture. A direct-to-video sequel, American Psycho 2, was released in 2002, although it has little relation to the original. And we're not going to talk about that, but I will put a clip in of how bad the acting is.
Deadlier and sexier than ever before.
Ribbed for her pleasure.
I presume Christian Bale does not show up in that, though.
Like, fuck he does, Lucas. Like, do you know this? He's getting to come back to play Batman? And Lucas, there are many sections on this Wikipedia page here. There's earlier development under Mary Harron, pre-production and casting, filming, music, release, reception, legacy, and reception within popular culture. So, which of those would you like to cover first?
I'm not gonna lie, the three that, you know, sound most interesting when it comes to this movie, probably the last three.
Okay, so that's legacy, in popular culture, and the reception. Don't want to talk about casting?
I mean, I am actually interested in casting as well. Like, I'm interested in talking about this movie for a lot of different reasons, but, like, yeah.
Yeah, well, see, it does have a pretty stacked cast. Obviously, Christian Bale as Patrick Bateman, Justin Theroux as Timothy Bryce, Josh Lucas as Craig McDermott, Bill Sage as David Van Patten, Chloe Sevigny as Jean, Bateman's secretary, Reese Witherspoon in an earlier casting of hers, as Evelyn Williams, Bateman's fiancée, whom he despises. And the scenes with those two are fucking hilarious. Like, I love the one where, like, Christian Bale... I'm going to interchangeably just call Patrick Bateman Christian Bale, and I'll call Christian Bale Patrick Bateman. He's that good at the role. Where he's just in the restaurant with his missus, and he just stands up and says, I've analysed the situation, I don't like it, I'm going home. And just leaves.
Oh, God, I can't do this.
I'm leaving. I've assessed the situation, and I'm going.
Where are you going?
Just leaving.
And it's like, it's an all-purpose excuse for getting out of something, right? Of like, I've analysed the situation, I don't like it, I'm leaving now. Or something to that effect.
It's weird, right? Because, like, I have been that kind of person once or twice when I've, like, gone to, you know, a party or something like that and gone, the vibes are real off here, I'm gonna leave. And just, like, people have been like, that's not a thing, you can't just say that the vibes are off. It's like, I fucking can.
Yes, you can.
And I'm going to.
Like, you know what? It's always an option, just hit the bricks. It's like, have you ever seen the meme of the skeleton? Speaking of memes, where it's just like, just leave. It's just a skeleton running. It's like, is there a situation you don't like? Just leave. It's always an option. It's just a skeleton sprinting. It's like, you've always got the option to hit those bricks. Just run away. Who the fuck's going to stop you? I also love his other excuse of, I have to return some videotapes. It's just one that thing, just I have to return some videotapes, and just leaves.
But where?
I have to return some videotapes.
Because he doesn't give a fuck. Other actors, though, include Jared Leto as Paul Allen, who gets killed with an axe. And I love the detail that Patrick Bateman polishes his axe so he can see himself in it. It's so good. And it's like, hey, Paul! Boom! And just caves his fucking skull in.
It's not just about the pleasures of conformity and the importance of trends. It's also a personal statement about the band itself. Hey, Paul! Ah!
Yeah, the fact that, again, I know I fell under this camp, but the fact that people can watch scenes like that and not be like, oh, this is like either A, taking the piss, or B, just fucking hilarious.
So funny. It's more the fact it's a little dance that he does. And I mentioned dark humour at the start of the video, and that's a reason why a lot of people gave American Psycho a bad review, because they didn't quote-unquote get it. Because they didn't get that it was supposed to be funny. They were horrified by the violence. It's like, but the violence is so extreme, it goes all the way around to being funny. We're not laughing at the violence, we're laughing at the situation. The idea that Patrick Bateman has a dedicated, polished axe to view himself in because he's that much of a narcissist.
Huey has a far more bitter, cynical sense of humor.
Or the fact that he's just dancing happily as he caves a man's skull in with said axe. That's what makes it funny. It's so absurd.
Yeah, that scene that when you mentioned, like, the music and the dancing, kind of reminds me of the scene in Reservoir Dogs with, like, Stuck in the Middle with You playing, of, like, the purpose of this, with this person, like, gleefully torturing or killing someone is, like, it's to show how much of a fucking psychopath they are.
What I'm trying to say in this cartoon is that violence is everywhere in our society, you know? It's like even in breakfast cereals, man.
And, you know, that scene is funny, and Quentin Tarantino is a director who can make violence funny, specifically uber violence. I think of Django Unchained, where they're just, like, you know, right at the end of the film, where it's like, hey, say goodbye to that lady over there. Goodbye. Bang! Just flies out of the room at 1,000 miles an hour. Or he just, like, kneecaps Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, with the one where they fly out the room, it's the fact as well, they don't even go in, like, the same direction as they're being shot.
But it's funny, right?
Will you tell Miss Laura goodbye?
Do what now?
I said tell Miss Laura goodbye.
Bye, Miss Laura.
And speaking of absurd, Willem Dafoe as Donald Kimball. And I have to mention the facts that everyone's going to be sharing, and that is that during the scene where Donald Kimball, Willem Dafoe, is interrogating or interviewing, depending on how you look at it, Patrick Bateman, Christian Bale, they recorded that scene 3 times.
No, I'm sorry. I should have made an appointment.
And they told Willem Dafoe one of 3 things for each of those takes. The first one was, hey, no, this is just a matter-of-fact gathering of information. You have no reason at all to suspect Patrick Bateman of any impropriety. This is just one of those things that you have to do. And, you know, we want you to be jovial, happy, open with him.
I see, yeah.
Paul's disappearance, yeah.
Sir, it's nothing that official. I just have some basic questions about Paul Allen, about yourself.
Coffee?
No, I'm okay.
The second one, okay, we want you to be a little bit suspicious in this scene. And we want you to, like, you know, you suspect that Patrick Bateman might have something to do with it, but you're not quite sure.
I mean, no one's dealing with the homicide squad yet or anything, right?
No, not yet. As I said, we're not sure. Basically, no one's seen or heard anything.
The third take, you absolutely 100% know that Patrick Bateman is the killer. And you've got him on the hook.
I hope I'm not being cross-examined here.
You feel like that?
No, not really.
Where did Paul hang out?
And then what they did is they filmed that scene 3 times with those 3 directions in mind, and then spliced them together. So that's why Willem Dafoe's character will shift wildly between scenes to represent the fact that Patrick Bateman struggles to, like, analyze and interpret human emotion because he's a fucking psychopath. And the wild swings in, like, so he goes from, like, being, hey, look, I got this new CD, and he's smiling, and he goes to Patrick Bateman sweating his fucking tits off, and it cuts back and he's like staring daggers through him.
Indochine, Nels, the Cornell Club, the New York Yacht Club.
He had a yacht?
No, he just hung out there.
And where did he go to school?
Don't you know this?
I just wanted to know if you know.
And it's one of those things where you wouldn't notice it, but it does make you feel uneasy. Like, why is Kimball just so all over the place? And that's because you're viewing that scene through Patrick Bateman's eyes, and Patrick Bateman can't read human emotion. He's trying, but he's not very good at it.
And just as well, like, as the audience, it kind of keeps you on your heels as whether or not they're onto him, right?
Also, just the ambiguity of, is Patrick Bateman a serial killer, or is it all in his head? Is he that pathetic that he imagined that he's this great serial killer? He imprints himself onto this news that he's read about people getting killed to make himself feel more important, because ultimately he does not matter. Like at the end of the film, where someone keeps mistaking him for Paul Allen.
What exactly do you mean?
The message you left. By the way, Davis, how's Cynthia? You're still seeing her, right?
Wait, Harold. What do you mean?
Oh, excuse me, nothing. It's good to see you.
But because they all look exactly the same. That's one of the things about the costuming that I love, that everyone wears the same outfit. They're all basically just mirrors of each other. And that's no better summed up than by the hilarious business card scene, where they've all got the exact same business card, right? But
they're all just flaunting it like they've got, like, a fucking ultra hollow rare from a Yu-Gi-Oh pack or something.
And they all look pretty much identical, save for a few minor differences.
It's very cool, Bateman, but that's nothing. Look at this.
That is really nice.
But, and then you have that amazing moment where Patrick Bateman is almost in tears. It's like, let me see Paul's card. And like,
let's see Paul Allen's card.
They show him it, and you see like he's shaking when he looks at it, and he's like, and again, the fact everyone's going to be screaming in the comments is that Patrick Bateman, Christian Bale is sweating in that scene. That's not a special effect, just Christian Bale could just do that. He could sweat on command. So when he's looking at that thing and he's like shaking and sweating with just repressed rage, that's Christian Bale just acting.
Like, it's funny, because, you know, you often see people talk about, like, acting shortcuts, like, oh, get a bit of, like, onion under your eye for, like, a scene where you need to cry and stuff, and it's a Christian Christian Bale's just, like, summoning his body to just sweat profusely.
Yeah, and that scene is so fucking funny. Because, like, out of context, it's played as the most intense scene ever, like when they brandish the business card, and they make, like, the swoosh noise of a katana as they whip it out.
I can't believe that Bryce prefers Van Patten's card to mine.
But wait, you ain't seen nothing yet.
And they show you an identical business card. That's bone. And you just, and everyone's like, ooh, that's real good. It's like, no, it's not.
It kind of reminds me of, like, the simple elegance of like the very famous scene in Death Note, where it's like, it's just Light Yagami in a bedroom in the dark writing, like, names on a page, and it's the most dramatic thing in the world.
Oh, like, we talked a lot about Edgar Wright's movies, where he makes, like, the most mundane actions seem really intense, like just writing paperwork. Like, he directs people, like, doing paperwork after a shootout with the same level of intensity as the shootout.
Besides, we have to do a considerable amount of paperwork.
before we move on to reception, Lucas, is there any particular like favourite moments you'd like to highlight that I could put clips in of?
I mean, maybe just put a shot in of Willem Dafoe doing something interesting, because, like, I was just going to say, you know, you mentioned Christian Bale might be the only guy that could play Batman and Joker, and it's like, Willem fucking Dafoe could do that.
He's so good at it. Like I said, that thing where he flicks between being like, I know that you're the killer, and hey, I'm just here to talk to you. Like, this is just a matter of routine.
Guess I was probably returning videotapes. I had a date with a girl named Veronica.
That's not what I've got.
And the fact that he's able to flip between those, and you can like, again, it's one of those films that people love breaking down, because every scene has something in it that you would not notice on a first watch, and when it's pointed out to you, you go, oh my god, that's genius. Like when, during that interview scene, Johnny whips out a CD, and it's the Huey Lewis in the News, the same CD he played when he killed Paul Allen. You'll see him, he'll shine, he reflects the sunlight directly into Patrick Bateman's eyes, and Patrick Bateman doesn't move.
Huey Lewis in the News. Great stuff. I just bought it on my way here. You heard it?
Never.
Like, he doesn't even flinch, because there's nothing behind his eyes. Right?
Like,
how good is that? It's like, ting! Then there's another scene where Patrick Bateman's in a restaurant, and the person he's in the restaurant with salts their steak. And without thinking, Bateman also salts his steak, because he's just mimicking what he sees, because he doesn't know how humans act. So he just copies what he sees and hopes that he'll get away with it that way.
God, yeah.
So, the night he disappeared, any new thoughts about what you did?
Sure. I had a shower.
I'm so glad that they both had, you know, a director and an actor so dedicated to the movie to leave in little bits of detail like that.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of like really, really good details like that. Oh, you know, when he's talking about like, hey, what do you do? I'm in mergers and acquisitions.
And again, where's the place that you would like get the perfect psychopath to work?
Just a guy on Wall Street. And that's one of the beauties of the film, the ambiguity. Is Patrick Bateman a psychopathic serial killer? Or is he just a really sad man with delusions of grandeur?
My punishment continues to elude me, and I gain no deeper knowledge of myself. No new knowledge can be extracted from my telling. This confession has meant nothing.
It's like, is he just thinking of all of these things because he's desperate to feel like he has some level of importance in the world?
Yeah. And that's, again, I think the opening line of the movie, which is, I think, the opening line in the book. There might be some slight variations, but it's Patrick Bateman talking about, like, you know, I live in this apartment, my name is Patrick Bateman. Like, he tells you where he lives before he tells you what his name is, because where he lives, his appearance is more important than his name.
I live in the American Gardens building on West 81st Street, on the 11th floor. My name is Patrick Bateman. I'm 27 years old.
You know, we have here reception. American Psycho debuted, as mentioned, at the Sundance Film Festival, where it polarised audiences and critics. Some praised the film for its writing and the performances of Christian Bale, while others criticised it for its violent nature.
Like, still in that part of cinema where it's like, things are excessively violent, we don't like it. It's like, alright.
Yeah,
okay.
It holds on Rotten Tomatoes a 68%, which is based on 154 reviews, which doesn't really seem, considering that it's cult status, but that's why it's a cult film, right? If it was like lauded on release, it wouldn't be a cult film, it would just be a really good movie.
That's the thing though, but when you look back on it, it's like 30 years old nearly, and it's like seen as this amazing classic movie at this point. But yeah, it's just, that's why I was really interested to know how was it received at the time, because a lot of these like out there movies aren't particularly loved at the time. It's like, it got an alright rating on
like 6 or 7 out of 10
by critics, like, yeah.
But just the fact that it enjoys this cult status today, like when you mention American Psycho, oh, that perfect movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 6, 7 out of 10. And, you know, speaking of, like, you know, 6, 7 out of 10s, notable reviews include Roger Ebert, who gave the film 3 out of 4 stars, praising the female perspective brought by Harron and Turner, because they depict Bateman not as a psychologically disturbed aberration, but as a certain type of selfish, ego-driven male behaviour taken to its illogical extreme. And that's why, you know, Roger Ebert was one of the best. Like, he zeroed in on that immediately. Ebert also described Bale as being heroic in the way he allows the character to leap off joyfully into despicability. There is no instinct for self-preservation here, and that one is the mark of a good actor. Just, yeah, he fully embodies the role, whether it be negative or positive.
Yeah, and I don't know whether this was Christian Bale's like first big role.
It's one of his earlier big roles, yes.
Yeah, it's like, just what a fantastic career, and the fact that, you know, even a role such as like Batman, he can play with such seriousness. And
I'm not wearing hockey pads.
Conversely, a negative review in the Los Angeles Times, one Kenneth Turan wrote, "The difficult truth is that more viewers can model themselves as protagonist Bateman, the more they can distance themselves from the human reality, the slick violence that fills the screen, and take it all as some kind of cool joke. The more they are likely to enjoy this stillborn, pointless piece of work." Which just sort of, again, they didn't get it and they're mad that everyone else was laughing at the screens. Like, why is everyone laughing? I don't get it. You know what? It's the film that sucks.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, Kenneth Turan is no Roger Ebert. That's why he doesn't have a blue link on Wikipedia, but Roger Ebert does. That's why Roger Ebert had a Pulitzer for criticism.
Oh, right, fair.
Yeah, well, I think he's the only person to date to have one. Yeah, and it mentions here that, you know, author of the original novel, Ellis, said, "American Psycho was a book I didn't think needed to be turned into a movie, as the medium of film demands answers, which would make a book infinitely less interesting." So referring to the ambiguity of whether or not Bateman is what he claims to be. He said that while the book attempts to add ambiguity to the events of Bateman's reliability as a narrator, the film appeared to make them completely literal before confusing the issue at the very end. And I'd argue that it doesn't. Throughout the movie, it's very clear Bateman is an unreliable narrator because he's constantly talking about things that don't happen the way they're depicted on screen.
Hello, Halberstram. Nice tie. How the hell are you?
Alan has mistaken me for this dickhead Marcus Halberstram. It seems logical because Marcus also works at PNP and in fact does the same exact thing I do. He also has a penchant for Valentino suits and Oliver Peoples glasses. Marcus and I even go to the same barber, although I have a slightly better haircut.
Right. And you have, like, you know, that scene with Kimball I mentioned, where the Willem Dafoe is literally playing the character 3 different ways between takes.
Yeah, you cannot trust this person at all, and just... It's one of those weird things where, like, it's a bit of a weird review in the way that it's like, oh, well, I don't like the fact that the movie would give us answers, but then I also don't like the fact that it, at the end, muddies whether it's real or not.
I think it's because, like, you know, a novel, as he mentions, has way more room to breathe, whereas a film, I think the film's like 102 minutes, so not exactly the longest movie. And it is difficult to adapt a several hundred page novel into a 100-minute long movie. And like Ellis has said that their reaction to it is more mixed than negative. And they do appreciate that the film gave the book a second life, as it were.
For sure, yeah, like, I mean, I don't think I was even alive when the book came out, but the only time I'd ever really heard of American Psycho until I realised it was an adaptation was because of the film.
Mm-hmm. And then, Lucas, we have a legacy. So since the 2000s, the film has attracted a sizable cult following, which has grown in the 2010s on various social media platforms. The same cannot be said of the film's direct-to-video sequel, American Psycho 2, which was directed by Morgan Freeman and stars Mila Kunis.
Okay.
The sequel's only connection to the original is the death of Patrick Bateman, played by actor Michael Kremko, wearing a face mask to resemble.
No.
And he's shown only in flashback. The film was denounced by American Psycho author Bret Easton Ellis. In 2005, Kunis expressed embarrassment over the film. That's when you know it's bad, right? When the actors are like, I'm embarrassed by my, like, you know, association with this film.
As soon as I was free, I got really pissed. I mean, he was about to make a real mess of my babysitter. So I did what I believe many of you would do in similar circumstances. I took matters into my own hands. And it changed my life forever.
I mean, get that paycheck, right?
Get that paycheck. The fact it was directed by Morgan Freeman, fucking hell. I didn't know that.
I didn't realise that, like, it existed, let alone the fact that, you know, any of this happened, but I can't believe that they just got a guy and put him in a Christian Bale mask.
And then we have here in popular culture. So the Finnish melodic death metal band Children of Bodom. Give them a listen, they're pretty good. The film's ending monologue, "My pain is constant and sharp and I do not hope for a better world for anyone," as a segue between the two songs on their 2003 album, Hate Crew Death Roll. In 2013, FX and Lionsgate were developing an American Psycho television series that would serve as a sequel to the film. It was to be set in the present, with Patrick Bateman in his 50s grooming an apprentice, Andrew Lowe, to be just like him. And it's like, that... So, Joe, the ambiguity of whether Patrick Bateman is a serial killer or not is kind of ruined when you have a sequel where it's like he's grooming an apprentice, unless you make that apprentice a figment of his imagination.
Yeah, right.
Which would be the most obvious twist coming in a TV show.
Just, I just, training my protege, and he's like, every now and then just explaining to this guy, and then I start the killing. And it's like, wait, what? And he just starts, like, dancing in his apartment, pretending to kill someone. And he's like, right, yeah, I'm gonna go.
And finally, Lucas, the film is frequently the topic of memes and has been said by some to be irrelevant due to its themes and satirical nature. However, on the other hand, the character of Patrick Bateman has seen unironic adoration among young men attracted to the idea of the Sigma male and the ideals of hustle culture espoused by Bateman, even though the film heavily criticises capitalism and the role of men in society. Because they've not watched the movie, they've seen the memes. Which is hilarious, right? I bet if you asked Easton and Ellis about that, they would piss themselves laughing.
I feel about the reemergence of Patrick Bateman as some kind of relevant character in the culture, like I do with most of my career. It really doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care.
They probably would, right? But, like, I'm sure as well, it's not just that. It's that even if they did watch it, they probably still would, just gravitate themselves towards the things that they aspire to be rather than the criticisms.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't, they'd probably ignore the scene where Patrick Bateman kicks a dog to death, for example, or when he, breaks down crying at the end of the film. Because he realises his life doesn't matter. And that's why you have, the amazing ending, where it's he goes up to someone to try and confess to the killings. I killed Paul Allen. What are you talking about? I've just saw Paul Allen last week. Which, you don't know if that is actually Paul Allen, or it, again, goes into the themes of everyone in that group being completely interchangeable, because people keep mistaking Bale for Paul Allen. Yeah. Which is a constant source of frustration for him, yeah.
Yeah, every single person's just another, cog in that machine, and they're just all completely interchangeable, all look the same, all act the same.
And and then that's where you have that great moment where he's like, you realize, did I kill Paul Allen, or did I get away with it because we're all so interchangeable that no one gives a fuck if one of us dies, so we'll just be replaced next week by another identical looking person in a suit with the same haircut.
Because I had dinner with Paul Allen twice in London, just 10 days ago.
No, you didn't.
Now, if you'll excuse me.
And I would highly recommend people go watch the film, especially if you are only familiar with it, due to its mimetic reputation. It is fantastic, and the clips I put in cannot do justice the quality of Bale's performance. And I will mention one thing that, I was inspired by the film to do. Joey says, people are inspired by the film. One thing that I really like is in the intro, where you have, Patrick Bateman's morning routine. And I didn't do the workout stuff because that's ridiculous. But one thing I did get was an ice pack mask. So I do have the Patrick Bateman serial killer ice pack mask. Do you know why? Lucas, how's the weather been for the last couple of weeks for you?
It's been a bit stodgy.
It's been a bit rough, right? Do you know what makes it way better? Ice pack mask. Mate, this has made those hot summer days a fucking breeze.
Yeah, but you also look like just a fucking psychopath.
Do you know what makes it really funny as well? Because I saw the film and didn't know that these were a thing. Because I get really bad migraines and headaches. And I always, when I get a headache, I have to put something cold on my forehead, like a wet towel or a can of pop or something like that. I didn't realise these existed until I watched the film.
In the morning, if my face is a little puffy, I'll put on an ice pack while doing my stomach crunches. I can do 1,000 now.
And I went, wait, that's a thing? You can just get a mask that you put in the freezer and it goes around this big. Like, if anyone out there who gets like tension, headaches, or migraines knows, it's right here in your sinuses where it gets you, and that's where you need like pressure and cold to help alleviate the pain. And I bought one. The thing that cracked me up is when I was on Amazon and I just typed in ice mask. It said frequently bought with copies of American Psycho. Like, of course it is, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't do it. Like, it's just, I saw it and went, oh my god, that's genius. And I always have one in my freezer, and every morning I wake up, I put it on when I have my morning coffee, and then I go to the gym. It is a game changer. And if anyone out there has any other advice for how to make the day a little bit more bearable, you can go down to our Discord link below and share any advice or stories you may have. Also, if you want to discuss the movie or this video, you can do so there as well. You can ask myself and Lucas questions, or just hang around with other fans of the channel. Thank you everyone for watching. I've been your host for this episode, Karl Smallwood, joined off screen as ever by my good friend Lucas Holland.
Hello there.
And we'd like to wish you all a very good day. See you all next time.